Hello, boys and girls. It's another exciting unboxing episode for you today. Um, Now, just to be honest, I had to. This was the Deadlands slipcover here that I mentioned before. Had to kind of unbox that off camera just because it was kind of fragile, and I was trying to do it with care and not, just kind of go into town like I usually do because I didn't want it to get damaged and would have just been really boring. So, yeah, you didn't really miss anything. But anyway, yeah, it's nice and shiny. It's got that, cool, shiny look to it. Can't wait to put it onto. Yeah, see, it's in the Walmart Blu-ray bin, which is too bad that it, didn't get more recognition in the mainstream. But, that's how we roll around here. We like to, you know, give the underappreciated films their space to be appreciated. So, yeah, I just had to get that out of the way. But yeah, you've already seen the actual film of that. But now you got this. Now we got the slipcover, and now it's complete. All right, and so let's just take a sip from our delicious glass of Pepsi here. Pepsi is the drink of true unboxing champions. And let's get right to it. So we got one from Port Richey, Florida. Either that or Richey or Richie or I don't even know. Uh, it's really hard to know how to pronounce certain place names sometimes. And I think I know what yep, I know what this is. Alright, so how many of you out there saw Joker last year? So that was about, this reclusive loner person with various psychological conditions and odd hair who eventually reaches his breaking point and criminality ensues. Well, I was talking about Joker, but that could just as easily apply to our dear friend the Fanatic, directed by Fred Durst, starring John Travolta. um, and it's kind of funny because both films line up in surprisingly close ways. Like they're both characters are obsessed with certain celebrities. They both have exhibit stalkerish behavior. They both have some dark humor. Both characters take it too far. They have weird hair. They have very specific psychological conditions. And yet, Joker, I think Joaquin Phoenix's performance, is one of the best in recent memory, and he won an Oscar for it quite deservedly. And then John Travolta, he has given his all in this thing, but it's like there are so many moments in this film that are just sort of unintentionally campy and funny. And he won a Razzie for Worst Actor, which is not his first. I wouldn't necessarily have said that. I think it's more of the writing and the directing than him, because one thing I'll say with John Travolta is even if the material is not necessarily of the highest caliber, he doesn't sleepwalk through performances. He really gives it his all, and you can't fault him for that. I think even someone like Nicolas Cage, like he, especially in recent days, he's had some of his sleepwalky kind of performances, and he didn't used to do that, but obviously he has had to take as many roles as he can get just to pay off debt and things like that. But I don't know exactly, what John Travolta's rationale is with selecting certain roles, but at the very least, he definitely gives his all to the role and does what is on the script, and what's on the page is just in this particular instance, it's like it's going for something very relatable for a lot of people, but it where Joker kind of succeeds with this spectacular kind of poetic excellence. This film, it just there's a lot of aspects to it that are just unintentionally funny, but it's still worth seeing. It's worth doing kind of a comparison contrast of these two, because they match up in surprising ways. And I think that this will kind of have a cult following over time. It's it's special. Definitely give it a watch. It doesn't entirely do what it sets out to do, but I don't think it's a cataclysmic failure either. Um, it's definitely, especially when you compare it to Joker, which I think is a pretty unbridled success relative to what it was trying to be. Um, it's always neat to see like what worked, what didn't work about this thing, and just see what one might be able to learn from such a thing. All right, and then now moving on. This one was from Lancaster, California, and we got Last Exorcism Part 2 with the slipcover, which is cool. I don't think I've ever seen it in person with the slipcover. And I saw the first one. I haven't seen the second one. I saw like maybe a little bit of the beginning, and I know that it is a conventional narrative film. It is not a found footage film like the first one, so that's kind of interesting. But definitely a change of style there. But definitely eager to. I'm gonna rewatch the first one and then dive into this one just to see what's up. But yeah, we got that. We got our ultraviolet code there, which I guess ultraviolet I guess that no longer exists. A lot of these streaming services or not streaming, but like the ways you can get your digital copy or whatever, a lot of those services effectively no longer exist, or they got bought up or merged or whatever, which is kind of insane to think about just how quickly the turnaround is. So already we got 2 with the slips, which is really nice. Oh yeah, very quickly. So John Travolta's character's name is Moose. Yes, his name is Moose, and his best friend is like this 20-year-old girl or something, and John Travolta I think is like in his 60s now, and it just comes off as weird to me because just like the way the character is written, you would have sworn that this person would have been like around that same age, or maybe like a little bit older, like 30 something, but not like old enough to be your dad. But then again, maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe the idea was that this is like they're like an odd pairing of misfits. I don't know, but again, worth a watch just because there's certain like head scratching decisions that you're like, why did they choose to do that, or why did he make this acting choice here, and that can always be valuable for actors or directors out there that want to learn about certain things that worked or didn't work, or at least taking a chance, which again, John Travolta, he knows how to take a chance. He knows how to not sleepwalk through a performance, even if the material isn't always the best. I'm just going ahead. I'm just taking off the wrapping there. But it's the Switch with the slipcover, which is cool. This is one that I think I might have seen the trailer for this at some point, and I remembered wanting to see it because I like Jason Bateman, as I've mentioned. Looked like kind of an oddball concept for a comedy, but again, and it also was like maybe $4 or less on eBay with the slipcover, so it was definitely worth it. Because it's always great whenever you can find older releases like this that still have their slipcovers intact. And there's good old Jeff Goldblum. There is another favorite of mine. He's carved out his particular type of character, and is always entertaining to watch. Anyway, and where was that one from? West Windsor, New Jersey, and then this one, San Antonio, Texas. Okay. What do we got? Yes. So this is a film, I've tried to watch it like twice before, and I think I get about midway through each time, but I am going to finally finish it, Fender Bender, which is kind of a, like an 80s slasher film throwback kind of film, and the lead girl in this film, our leading lady, Mackenzie Vega, I believe she's related to Alexa Vega, who was, there you go, there's our reversible cover there. She played Carmen in in Spy Kids, the first, I want to say 3 installments. I only saw up to number 2, and I haven't seen them in forever. But yeah, I remembered kind of that she was kind of a rising talent, and so I guess that's can't remember if it's her sister or something, but yeah, she's related. And from what I can recall of this film, I thought she did pretty well. But again, I need to finish it. I hate, when I start films and I don't finish them, but it's usually because something else comes up and I kind of lose track or whatever. Any number of things can happen, but yeah, if you're like that as well, I'm sure you know how that feels. But again, one thing I'll say is that I think the soundtrack's really good. It's got an 80s synth score, and this one, if I recall, this one was I want to say like either Shudder or whatever the other one. There was another horror streaming platform that put out like an original, some original films with Shout Factory as a collaboration. Chiller Films. It was one of those two. But anyway, yeah, it had the 80 cent score thing, and it did it. I believe that came out before Stranger Things kind of brought that back, and I like that kind of music, in context of the 80s or not. So this one is Long Beach, California. Yeah, if you know anything about me, I tend to like music that is a little bit in films that is kind of off the beaten track or is used in interesting, unique ways. And this is a lot of these things on eBay, like they just are normal, manila envelopes or whatever, but this is like specific eBay packaging here. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder what the rationale is there about who gets what kind of packaging. If there is one, there may not be. Okay, so not sure what this is. We're gonna find out. It's got this nice eBay wrapping on it. Might also be good to save for around Christmas time. Keep it with my Shout Factory wrapping. This is nice. It's like gift paper, gift tissue that you might put in a gift bag. Okay, so these are 3 in 1. So first up we have The Girl with All the Gifts. Now I used to have this edition, had to sell it, and then now I got it back with the slipcover. I saw this film on Netflix not too long ago. It's a zombie film, but it is not at all a typical one. It is based on a book. It has a stellar performance from the lead kid, Gemma Arterton, I believe. I think that's her name, but I could be wrong about that. But anyway, she plays our lead character, who is actually she is a like second generation zombie, basically. So she her, I want to say mother, became zombified, I think while she was still pregnant, with her, and she gave birth, and so what happened is that the second generation kids, they have the hunger for human flesh, but they still retain their critical faculties, so they can still speak and think and all that stuff. And so she's, being used to try and find a cure for the virus that's affecting everyone. But it's a really, really good zombie film. One of my favorites. I think more people need to see this, but definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it. And then the front of the box, or the back of the box, it says the best zombie movie since 28 Days Later. Well, guess what? We got 28 Days Later right here. Now, this is such an old Blu-ray release, one of the earliest ones I remember. And the thing that you'll notice with 28 Days Later, it was shot using digital cameras, which were pretty new and different and wild for the time. But again, this was 2002, so they were standard def, no HD cameras yet, and the types of digital they had, like, it has not really aged very well. And honestly, like, when you play it back with this 1080p and then on a 4K TV using a 4K player like I have, it's not really gonna look all that great. But I mean, again, it was pretty daring for its time. Well, not only in terms of the film itself, but in terms of like just choosing to shoot on digital because of the just the ease of it and giving it that modern grungy look. One thing I really like about this is that if you're going by the standard theatrical ending, so the whole movie up to the ending is shot on that standard def video, digital video, but then the very ending is shot on film, and it noticeably looks better when it's properly restored. And I think it actually serves the ending very well. But then there is that alternate ending that when I watched this on, I think it was Hulu I watched this on, but it showed the alternate depressing ending as well, and that one is shot on video. So again, I think that just shows how you can use your choice of formatting to thematically serve your story well. And then non-horror film here, we got 12 Strong with Chris Hemsworth, and I don't really know anything about this film, to be honest. I guess that it's like a war film with soldiers on horseback, and I guess it's based on a true story, but I guess that at the time that it came out, I guess that it got, like, I could be remembering this wrong, but I think when this came out, it kind of got some criticism for being like overly macho or something. I don't know. Could be wrong about that, but it's hard to comment because I haven't ever seen it. This was it was included in the lot, of those. There's a total of 3, and I just happened to find this one with the slip there. Oh yeah, so this was it says on September 11, 2001, the world watched in terror. On September 12th, 2001, they volunteered to fight. So yeah, I guess that these are kind of some of the first people that would have signed up in the wake of 9/11. So, which again, I mean, I think it's a little odd, or perhaps a little, I don't want to say, like, I don't know if disrespectful is the right word, but it's like, the people that were the first to sign up in the wake of that horrible day, it's like they deserve a lot of, praise and credit and reverence from us, because, I couldn't do it. I'm not brave enough to do that. I mean, I would hope I wouldn't be cowardly, but at the same time, like, I mean, that takes a special kind of person to do that, beyond, like, your typical brave person, I mean. And so, I think that would certainly be an interesting entree to learning more about the experiences of the real people that chose to do that. Like I said before, historical films cannot be taken as, they're not documentaries. At best, they're just ways to learn more about the real story. Which actually, speaking of which, Hacksaw Ridge did a really cool thing where they managed to show the real Desmond Doss at the end. So that helped give it an extra layer of authenticity, which I always like it when they do that, if they're able to do that. Obviously, you can't do that about Henry VIII because no video footage exists. This is really wedged in here, really bubble wrapped tight. And this is from Cypress, Texas, and I do believe I know what this is. I think these are some custom cases, or custom covers with their own replacement cases. Here's a contest. Is like, how many goofy faces can I make while trying to open this? There we go. Whew. That is really tight. Now, if I recall, I think the same seller, if I recall, because we messaged each other on eBay, that he likes to get it in there nice and tight so that it doesn't that they don't go every which way, which fair enough, but yeah, it's quite can be quite cumbersome to open. Now, just to start off, so I mentioned before that he was sending me a replacement Joker cover with the corrected rating, and there it is. And plus, this lighting's a little better, so you can see it better. But anyway, yeah, I think this looks 10 million times cooler than the official artwork. So, definitely. Again, I'll put the links in the description, but definitely worth it if you like the film. So, now that I mentioned it, yeah, see, here you go. It's a good comparison contrast kind of exercise. I plan to do a video about these two kind of back to back at some point, so definitely watch out for that. It's worth talking about. All right, so next up here of the new ones that we haven't seen is 8 Mile, and this I believe was the original theatrical poster, and then this image of Eminem here, that's the one that people are typically used to seeing on the main cover there. Where is it? There we are. But yeah, I got just the disc only because I knew that I would get this custom cover and then put them together, and so this was a good way to do that. And it's one of those ways that you can make something that's special and unique to you. And also, I mean, it's the original poster there. It just looks cooler, I think. It's also the cover of the soundtrack album too. Excellent film, probably one of the best, not musicals, but like a semi-autobiographical film about a musician, in this case Eminem. It's not his literal life because it's a different character's name, but still it's essentially his story, his life story. But anyway, Street Fighter, which I think I mentioned when I unboxed that steelbook. I mentioned that I'm a big fan of this movie, and this cover, this was the original theatrical poster here, which looks so much cooler than the standard Blu-ray release. Yeah, there's Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile, Colonel Guile, and what did you guys think about his casting in that film? I remembered always thinking that it was odd that they cast a Belgian as this like really all-American kind of guy. But then I guess that it was Capcom who they explicitly wanted him to play Guile, because obviously, well, he was a big star at the time, like the big action star alongside like Schwarzenegger and Stallone and people like that. But I guess Capcom like explicitly wanted him. I'm replacing the cases here because this is more correct than these cases are rather big and bulky. But so they wanted him specifically, and despite him again having his thick accent, I mean he does the flash kick, he does all the necessary Guile things, and then of course Raul Julia as M. Bison is. That alone is worth seeing this movie for. But yeah, it at this point in the game's history, they hadn't really fleshed out the lore all that much. This was like before Street Fighter Alpha, before a lot of the just ways of like how do we even get all these characters together, other than like I guess just the fact that there was the Street Fighter tournament. But here they managed to get them all together in a way that makes some kind of sense within the admittedly kind of absurd, campy universe that the movie creates. But it's a lot of fun, definitely worth a watch. It's very I think I can see why it has a cult following these days. Very deserved, I think. Next up is the original theatrical poster here of The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is one of the all-time best sci-fi films that has ever been. And, it just looks fantastic. Like, I don't have it in front of me, but like the standard release cover of this looks awful, and so this, again, why mess with what's already great? And this is already great. And then I remember when we unboxed Clash of the Titans before, and I mentioned the much cooler poster. Well, there you go. Again, same kind of thing. It looks so much better than the official release, and it just evokes what made people want to come out to the theater in the first place. So, just evoke that. Why not? And then last but not least, which we saw Deliverance in one of the unboxings before. This is a much cooler cover, and I believe that that's the theatrical poster there, but that's just super creepy, isn't it? I love it. And it's a really good movie if you haven't seen it. Very kind of notorious for its time, but yeah, really well acted, great caliber of actors in this film. And that is it for today. So yeah, hit the subscribe button, like, share, subscribe, set phasers to stun, warp factor 5, and I will see you in the next unboxing.